I see what Playa is going to look like in the future. I've seen the same type of maps with Cancun. And then when I go to Tulum, it just looks like chaos.
Yes.
Right? There's so much building going on.
Yes. Yeah. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Living the Dream Mexico podcast, where we talk about everything lifestyle and real estate. Matt, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, buddy. You?
Good. I'm one of the co-founders of Elements Real Estate Group.
And my name is Lev. I'm the other co-founder of the Elements Real Estate Group. And today, boy, do we have a treat.
Do we ever?
Social media guru, expert, local, whatever you want to call it, superstar. This guy is doing it right. I don't know what he's doing. It's got to be the good looks. I mean,
of course.
It's got to be the good looks. That's fine.
And the good looks all together.
We have Caribe Gringo here, which is his social media. And then his real name is
Sean Gillespie.
Sean Gillespie from the United States of America. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're super excited to have you. I've been trying to get you on this podcast, bombarding you on WhatsApp. So I appreciate you coming here. Our podcast is basically we try to help Americans and Canadians understand Mexico,
Right.
Whether it's just the lifestyle or, real estate or just the everyday misconceptions about it,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have connotations. You probably know about
Yes.
this, about Mexico and everything it does. So before we get into any of that, who are you and what do you do? Tell us your story.
Oh, who am I and what do I do? I'm actually, I guess, have been reinventing myself. My wife and I have been married for a very long time, my ex-wife. And so we got divorced and I decided that I was going to live here in Mexico. So I've been living down here for about 2 years or so. In the US, my wife and I owned a nutrition manufacturing company. So like most companies in the United States anyway that sell nutritional products, they are basically marketing companies. So they don't do any manufacturing. They just pay other people to do the manufacturing, and really they just, send out POs, and then they're really marketing
Or
companies.
put a label on it and send it out.
Yeah, so we were one of the very few, owner brands or manufacturing brands that are in the United States. There's a couple, but we were one of the few. And we just focused on really high-end products. So like 95% of the creatine in the world comes from China, and it has a lot of impurities in it. Most of it's illegal to sell in Canada, by the way. It's the only country in the world, yeah.
Wow,
So-
that's crazy.
So we were importing a product, creatine from Germany called Creapure. And so we were operating under, with that product.
Cool.
And then even our protein, we refused to use like factory farm protein.
Mm-hmm.
So we would get our protein from Germany or sometimes from Denmark or Ireland, because in the European countries, they have like an animal welfare bill of rights.
Right. So they can't test on animals and stuff like that.
Yeah, they can't do testing. They can't use hormones. They can't use genetically modified, processes on them. And they have to have continuous access to pasture. Where in the United States, most of these dairy cows have no access to
Yeah,
pasture.
it's very different in the United States. The farming is like
Lots of documentaries.
hard to watch there. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what we did. We had a very successful company, and then after we split, she decided that she wanted to run the company, and so I've been trying to reinvent myself. It's like, okay, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so what would an entrepreneur do here in Playa del Carmen if, he was here? So I started basically doing the podcast type stuff a year ago for social media. There were some guys here from North Carolina, and they were very good with marketing, but they had never done marketing with a individual.
Right.
They'd done it for like other bigger brands
And companies.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right.
And I was so I'd talk to them every week. I'd go to their house, like drink some beer or whatever. And they eventually said, we got to get a microphone on you and a couple cameras. And so they just started asking me questions.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. So it's been pretty good.
I think I was very curious. I'm like, how is this guy getting this many views? He's saying all the right stuff. And it's like, a lot of other people are saying the right stuff, but he's got so many views. And I looked at your profile, and in July of like last year, you had, 200 views per reel.
Yeah.
To now, some of them are like 56,000 views. So it's pretty impressive. I mean,
It's amazing about bringing the right content and sharing your experience and also being genuine. That's one thing going through your feed and looking at your content is very genuine. You speak from the heart and people resonate with that, right?
Well, when I first moved here, I lived in Acapulco, and
different.
I was a little concerned just to like go into the local pueblo there, right? Because everything I had heard, that this place is dangerous. Make sure you stay in the tourist areas, all that kind of.
Oh yeah, don't leave the resort.
Don't leave the
and
resort.
Don't be out at night.
Don't drive a car. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So, anyways, after I was here a while, I started venturing out, and now I've ventured all over Yucatan. I've walked the streets of Merida at 2 a.m. I mean,
You have a similar story to that.
I do, because when I first came down here, at that time, a 1.5, 2-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
and we were staying in Playa, and we like going past Fifth Ave was basically our line, maybe 10th if we were feeling a little crazy. And then, as you start learning, and it's also through experience too, right? Like obviously going up, but then I met Lev and he's like, it's just a country. These people are amazing. They're friendly, and driving's just a little different, obviously, than what you're used to. But once you conform and you kind of get into it, kind of take that first step, you start realizing now, and looking back on it, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh my God.
But it happens to everyone.
20th, like, oh my goodness, like that's getting really far. And now we have a car, we're going all over the place. We live here. My daughter's in school, and last night, it'll come to me, but it was a really delicious like pho and mismo and miso stew stuff right on the
Mismo or miso?
Miso, sorry.
Mismo.
That's my Spanish coming through.
We have a question about that. How's your Spanish coming along after being here for 2 years?
you would think I would be more fluent in Spanish. I can ace all the way through Duolingo. I can
Get all the stars, the check marks. That's me too.
and I rarely miss a question there, but I get into conversations and I can have very minor conversations.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
And I'm starting to understand a lot more. So like now when I hear people talking, I'm picking up probably every second or third word.
And after a couple of beers too, it just becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Just speak Spanish. A couple of beers or a couple of tequilas. Tequilas, you're fluent.
So okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask because, coming from the U.S., what made you come to Playa del Carmen? Had you been here before, or why? Because there's
Not specifically Playa, but I had been to Cancun, I had been to Acamal, I'd been to Puerto Morales. And it was, for whatever reason, every time I would come here to the Caribbean, like had a very stressful life. And so every time I would come here, I could like completely just unwind and completely
Decompress.
take deep breath and
it was like the only
relax,
place in the world where that would happen. It was like almost like instantly. I would just like
100% agree. Yeah.
Oh, I just felt that too. As soon as I was like, I remember that feeling coming here from busy work life as well.
Yeah. Well, that's why a lot of people, when they come here, they just, as soon as they step out of the plane, out of the airport, they're like, oh my God. We have a question for you about Playa, basically, now that we're talking about it. Give us a few things that you like about it and a few things that you don't like about it, because it's not perfect. Everybody knows that. So
no, like Acamal, I would say was my first place that I was living, and it was very small. So when I moved from there, I needed to find something with a little more activities going on to stay busy. I only knew like a few people there, and so from a Playa standpoint, one of the things I really like about Playa is it has very easy beach access.
yeah,
Like, so if I can contrast that with Cancun or Tulum,
very.
Cancun, you pretty much have to access the beach through the hotel zone. There is one nice public beach there, but not a lot of parking.
Yep.
It's a little difficult to access the beach there. And then Tulum, I've yet to figure out how to access the beach into it.
Yeah, it's getting there.
To go to Playa Paraíso, yeah, exactly. It's not very well documented to get to the public beach. A lot of people think they have to go through beach clubs.
Yeah,
and
I've
stuff.
seen one public beach in Tulum, and it's next to a road that's like almost, there's like no beach. It's just the water's right up to the road.
Oh, when you first go in down Coba there? Around the edge?
You're
or
around
further down?
it's between, it's like it splits, there's a section there that splits the hotel zone.
Yeah, it's you go left towards Playa Paraíso, which is the public area, and the right is the Tulum hotel zone, the party zone. Yeah.
Okay, so the public beach is to the left.
Left, correct.
Yeah. But yeah, and there's, before you hit the actual hotel zone, there is a bit like kind of it drops off, and then there's a little beach area that's definitely public. But if you go the other way.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
where you went is not the public beach. Okay, yeah. There's
It's like
another-
that dangerous road of just cars going and people parked all over the side. Yeah, we should go filming. We'll go show you the public beach. Now it's public, but they do charge because you're going into the national park, the Jaguar Park. So they charge, I think it's 50 or 60 pesos. So a few dollars to, I think, just, help clean it up. But there are restaurants and stuff.
And is that beach really nice?
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw a Facebook post the other day, and this happens every year, but during the summertime here, the tide really comes in. Like Mamita's Beach has disappeared in Playa here, right? So anyways, that's a topic for another conversation. So you like the fact that it's very easy access to the beach.
Easy access to the beach. I also like the fact that it's a melting pot here in Playa, right? There's a lot of people from the U.S. There's a lot of people. I don't know what the numbers are, but like latest number I heard was there's about 1 million people, 750,000 to 1 million people now in Playa.
Whoa.
And
I checked it was 400,000, but I may be wrong.
Yeah.
There's almost 1 million in Cancun.
Like no, Cancun's like closer to 1.5 million.
Whoa, okay.
And you have to include like the outskirts as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
right? Because there are different communities.
Right,
Wow,
right.
that's crazy. So it's grown like crazy.
Yeah, so it's growing. But with all that, so you have a lot of people from the U.S., you have a lot of people from Canada here. You have a few Europeans, not a ton. You have a huge Russian-speaking community here.
Yes. Hello.
And you have a huge Argentinian population here.
Yeah, the Argentinians they're everywhere you look. There's a big Jewish community too starting to pop up.
Yeah,
Moshe.
I see them
You
all the
go
time.
there's Jews everywhere.
Even the Asian community too, right? Yeah, we're starting to see more. Yeah, you're right. That's actually a really good point. A big melting pot of so many different cultures coming in. I'm kind of used to that being in the Toronto area.
Yeah.
If you go into Toronto, it is a melting pot of so many different cultures, which brings lots of good things, like the food. Yeah, right. You're gonna see different restaurants start popping up and creating a different diversity as well.
What do you not like about Playa?
Man, what do I not like about Playa? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that I would change anything about Playa.
I'll tell you one thing I don't like about Playa. I've been living here for 11 years. It's gone busy. I mean, the traffic is becoming a little bit obscene in some places. Like this corner right around our office by Central Maya, sometimes I pick up my kid and I'm there for 14 minutes waiting for the light, and it's gotten a little bit crazy.
That's because it's not an automatic light, right?
Yeah.
Because there's actually somebody there. The police are controlling the traffic, which is
No, I would agree, though. Traffic can be a problem because I used to live in Selvamar,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
and it would take me sometimes 30
live there
minutes.
too,
yeah. You go
Just to
around,
get
do
to
the
the
round.
Mayakoba, Selvamar, yeah.
So that was difficult. And I live in an area now where I can still get access to the Carretera, but I can just take
Walk to the beach too.
Well, I can walk to the beach, but I can also take a shortcut to get to 10th Avenue.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Being this close to the beach, I like it because yes, you can walk to the beach, but the fact that it's ultra public is that sometimes it gets so crowded on weekends there, right? Like you have a group of, a family here with 20 people, another group there with 6. Some are playing banda, some are playing house music. So you kind of got to find the right spots in the Playa beaches where it's a little bit more quaint and tranquil. What about Tulum?
I've never been to the beach in Tulum.
Okay.
But what do I like about Tulum? I didn't used to like Tulum. But now I'm actually starting to understand Tulum. So I've seen like the big picture diagram, what they're trying to build Playa with. So I've seen what Playa is going to look like in the future. I've seen the same type of maps with Cancun. And then when I go to Tulum, it just looks like chaos,
Yes.
right? There's just so much building going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And somebody had told me that there's now 400 to 500 developments going on in Tulum right now.
Well, yeah, they're building a city from literally the ground up,
Yeah.
right? And then when there's only 55,000 people living there, last time I checked, which may be right or wrong. But when you have an international airport, they transform cities, right? So the capacity for the first 3 years is set to be 6 million people. But then there's also plans that have been approved to add terminals to have up to 20 million visitors go to that airport.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of people don't know that, and they see real estate, they see all these buildings and villas and complexes popping up, and they're saying, well, there's a surplus. Okay, fair, there is a surplus, but it's cyclical.
Yeah, well, the surplus that I see is with the studios and 1 bedroom.
Oh, 100.
Yeah, there's a lot popping up.
Yeah, I don't see a
agree.
surplus on 4+ bedroom.
No.
So I do get people that ask me for advice, like, what would you buy if you were going to invest in Tulum? And I'm like, I wouldn't touch anything under 4 bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would talk to Lev and Matt at the Elements group. They'll help you out.
Yeah, I do see it because there are some buildings, unique developments taking place in Tulum, which are basically studio and 1 bedrooms only.
Yeah.
But they're catered to digital nomads. Right. And like you start seeing things like free Wi-Fi on the beach and they're trying to like really bring in that digital nomads clients or clientele. And then they have all these music festivals going on where, you're either going to rent a villa with a bunch of people and or you're going to get a studio or 1 bedroom with whoever you're traveling with. But like some of these have hot and cold plunges. They have podcast studios in them. They have like a lot of Instagrammable stuff so that you can just like literally go there and shoot content. So I see what they're trying to do, but I think it's going to take a bit of time
To fill up all those
the
units.
digital nomads to really, go, I'm moving to Tulum.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And then, so I haven't seen Tulum's plan yet. Well, actually, I have seen a glimpse of the plan. Another realtor in Tulum has showed me something. So I kind of see that. Like for a long time, I kept asking myself, who's gonna pave these roads? Because those I don't.
Yeah, if you look at Lev's Instagram,
Yeah.
and he has the mayor of Tulum there, I think it's about every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Lev's like, what's going on? What's going
I
on?
literally messaged the mayor. Literally, as soon as he posts something, I'll be in his DMs and I'll also be commenting when the road's getting paved, when it's going to be illuminated. And I think about a month ago, he went on his social media and he announced that over the next 36 months, every single street in the Tulum municipality, basically from the highway down, is going to get paved and illuminated.
That's
For 3
interesting.
Yeah, so there's some big news coming, right? And that's like, we got super excited. We didn't throw a party, but we were this close to throwing a party, right? Because obviously we do a lot of business in Tulum and we have our thumb on the pulse, and it's nice to actually see when the municipality also sees the growth. Because the worst thing, as you could probably agree to, is having the growth that you're seeing, the infrastructure coming into place, but not having the right person, behind the wheel and steering the ship, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And I tell this to clients all the time. I said, I want to buy something. What should I buy? And I tell them, listen, the 1-bedroom and studio space is saturated.
Right.
Unless you're getting like a penthouse that's a super unique one and looks really good on Instagram, you'll make some money there. Actually, really good money. But if not, like, you really don't want to buy a studio in a white box that's 350 square feet.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Man, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Because this was a big one. We were just kind of talking about it when we first got here. We kind of stayed in our little pod, if you will, and then you start venturing out. What's the reality of safety in Mexico? Like, what are your thoughts? I have mine, Lev has his, and I think they're all going to come around to the same thing. But what is your first initial thought when it comes to somebody asking you that?
I guess if someone didn't explain to you that the guys that were selling or offering you drugs on, say, Quinta Avenida, if they didn't tell you that those guys were cartel, you would have no idea that they were or the mafia. You would have no idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are here. You do get approached. There are companies I know that pay protection and all that. But when I talk to the owners about that, most of them say, you know what, I actually get quite a bit out of this. If I have an issue, they come help.
Yeah.
And they don't charge a ton. And so, to me, that's the that's the most dangerous thing about here that people think. And as long as, the worst thing, what happens, I've seen a few people, or I've heard of a few people that were selling drugs and they were asked not to.
And they,
and then they kept doing it, and then they would get killed.
suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
So I've heard about that a few times, but my philosophy is, as long as I'm not, selling drugs, as long as I'm not trafficking women, I'm probably pretty safe here.
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. I always say, as long as you're not buying stuff you shouldn't be buying at a time of night, you shouldn't be out.
Right.
And you're being belligerent or
Right.
being a disturbance, you're gonna be totally fine. Right?
Most of the criminal organizations don't care about us. Like, we just walk around, we're ghosts to them. They don't even pay attention to us. We're just,
And it's funny because a lot of people watch Netflix or Prime or whatever it is, and they see shows like Narcos and this, and they think that is Mexico.
Yeah.
And they are completely blinded by
stereotypes.
by the stereotype. And then you go, and I have obviously friends and family in Toronto, and something hits the news and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, do you understand how big Mexico is?
Yeah.
Do you understand how many people are here? And then I Google, and I remember because it was January of this year, I Google how many shootings in Toronto.
Yeah.
And it was like one every 2 days.
Right.
There was multiple casualties, and there's gangs and stuff. So I think people just have that preconceived notion that it is super, super dangerous and it's all cartel. Why would I ever invest, let alone go there, whatever it might be? And at the end of the day, it's like this stuff, trafficking, there's a huge thing on the 402 right now between Sarnia and Toronto of women being trafficked.
Right.
It's a huge issue.
But it's almost like normal there.
But the
it
news
is normal, but
the news doesn't, it'll a little bit here to say they did it, but it's not like mainstream, let's go fix this, don't go to Ontario because of this issue. And that's what is kind of happening down here. And that's why we really want to bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think the latest numbers I've looked at, about 20 tourists a year are killed in Mexico.
20.
20.
There's 32 million people that come to this state alone every year.
So, but all 20 of those are publicized. Even if they were selling drugs, which in some cases, probably more than half of the cases, the ones that are killed here were involved with drugs. And so it's a very low number. By contrast, like 4,000 Hispanics are murdered every year in the United States.
Oh,
So,
that is
20
wild.
tourists total in Mexico.
Yeah.
4,000 in the Hispanics.
We're almost like under a magnifying glass here. As soon as something happens, I'll get a message being like, "Hey, did you hear what happened in Monterey with it?" I'm like, Monterey is, it's like talking New York and Nebraska, like so far away, But anyways, it's a topic that's always going to be on people's, I guess.
Well, this is why we really started the podcast in the first place, was to talk to people just like yourself who are here, living the dream, in Mexico and figuring it out. There's still things that probably you don't know, I don't know, Lev doesn't know, being here for years and years.
Yeah.
That,
No, Matt, I know everything.
Yeah, of course, Lev knows everything, but it's a learning experience. And even when we decided to move down here full time, it wasn't as simple as, we're selling our house, we're down here. It's like, okay, we paid into things like a Canadian pension plan. We have insurance, we have investments. How does this all work? And so going through that whole process, I feel is so valuable to be able to give back this information and share it with everybody watching it, because this is what people want to know. They don't want to just see the amazing stuff taking place. They want to know what it's actually like.
I have a question for you. You said you have a daughter in school.
Yes.
Okay, so compared to what you know about Canadian schools, because I have an opinion for U.S. schools, I'm just curious if it's the same. Compared to what you know for Canadian schools, and I'm sure your daughter's in a private school here, correct?
Yeah.
But private schools here are like $2,000 to $3,000 a year, correct?
Yeah, it's
very
affordable. Yeah.
How does that school compare to schools in Canada?
I'll let you go first, and then I'll talk about it.
Okay, so my daughter's actually, because she was in more of it was a private school, but she's only 3.5. So she's going into her first school, and actually today she's in her second trial day at the private school. She came back yesterday, loved it. My wife and I went through, and I would say that the style of learning, for example, this school goes from 8:30 to 1:30, then 1:30 to 2:30, and 2:30 to 3:30. Those 2 hours, they have extracurricular activities. So they dance, they play, they go play soccer, they go, in the water, whatever it is. They do something, which I think is amazing, because that's what kids should be doing. They shouldn't be sitting at a classroom memorizing stuff
like we did.
And I'm going to be very gentle with how I put the Canadian school system, but my wife and I decided, even really before Mexico full time, that our child was not going to go into the public system.
Yeah.
We just saw it failing in so many different ways, and we knew lots of friends.
Canada?
Oh
Yeah.
The Canadian school system used to be great. Like when we went to school, it was great. I loved high school and elementary school.
There's still positives about it,
Yeah.
but I think over the last 5 years or so, even teachers that we've talked to, they're not really able to teach anymore. This is the mandate. This is, if somebody, and there's some crazy examples, if somebody wants to identify as whatever it might be, as a cat, they're putting cat litter in this classroom. And I know, and now we hear these things, and you never think like, oh, that is wild, that would never happen here. And then you find out it's happening like 6 blocks from you at the public school, and you're like, my kid's not going there.
Yeah, that's another nice thing about Mexico, is that woke culture that you have going on in the United States and Canada, the rest of Western civilization, about, I identify as a cat, or, I'm a girl, and you're really a guy, or I'm a guy and I want to compete on the girls' soccer team or swim team.
Yeah.
You don't have
It's a little bit
any
more
of that stuff.
like traditional here, I would say.
And the families too, the
family, church.
And a quick thing on that, I don't care what anybody does. You do you, but when you're pushing it onto what I believe,
Right.
then I kind of draw a line in it when it is on the mainstream public school system. Maybe it doesn't happen at every public school. I can't say.
And everyone's got their opinion on it. I mean, I'm here for a reason with my family. My brother moved to Florida with his family.
Yeah.
Matt moved here as well. So everyone's got, to each their own is what I say. So you want to do that, do it. So I'll give you an example. My kid's 3.5. He's going to private school next year. This private school is the closest private setting that you could have to a school in the US or Canada.
Yeah.
Large scale cafeterias, uniforms, soccer field, football field, swimming, robotics, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
They learn 3 days in English, 2 days in Spanish, and then the following week they switch it. We looked at all the other schools here. Some of them are great. Some of them didn't fit what we're looking for. But this one that we're going to take Max to,
And what's the cost on that?
So it's gradual. As they get older, it's more. The initial year of when he's 4 is about 5,500 pesos. So call it $300 a month.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. It honestly, and for what you get, it is, hopefully nobody's really watching this because their prices could be much higher.
Oh yeah.
And it would be totally fine. So anyways, with my daughter, with Lev's son, we love the traditional sense and also the family. And I was watching one of your reels about, on the weekends where Mexican families, like, they're not out doing 100 things. They're with their family. They're all doing stuff together. And it really resonated with me because my parents live in different areas, and my sister and my brothers live in different. Anyways, we're all over the place.
Right.
Whereas here, it's very much a local feeling and very much family first, whereas back in the US and Canada, I can't speak for the US, but back in Canada, it's very much career first rather than family. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was, in the United States, like, not only that, so like family is, it's all work first or fun first. It's like work first, fun first, then family type thing. And so, yes, it's coming here and seeing how everybody gets together typically on, Sundays is like really cool to see. And then all the outdoor flea markets that you have here. I think that's a lot friendlier environment. And then, people are not so focused on careers here. That's 100% true.
I got a question for you because I think I know where it's going in general. But where do you see Mexico for foreigners? Because there seems to be everybody who talk to back in their sphere back home and stuff are like, what are you doing in Mexico? I would love to do that. How do I do that?
Well, it depends where. Let's ask that question in Mexico, but where in Mexico?
Okay, so I think I can address that.
Yeah, okay.
So you have a misconception with the crime here. So like, what's safer, Toronto or Cancun? Everybody would say Toronto. It's Cancun. So there's a website I look at called Numio. It's numbeo.com. And you can look at crime statistics. You can look at, safety at walking at night. And, so I started comparing, okay, well, what does Toronto look like to Cancun? And what does Playa look like to, I don't know, Cleveland? Something, because we hear how dangerous it is in Tulum and Playa and Cancun. And when you start looking at these crime indexes, it's actually safer. Puerto Vallarta, I don't think there's a city in Canada that's as safe as Puerto Vallarta.
Merida is the safest city in Mexico.
Well, Merida is now the safest city in the world. Or not in the world, in North America.
America's
Really?
Toronto used to be number 1, followed by Merida.
Oh.
And so now Toronto's nowhere even close.
Right.
Toronto's not even the top 10 safest places in America.
On the whole Toronto thing, just quickly, because I've been following this story happening with carjackings in Toronto.
Really?
Where the police have said, leave your key fob at your front door in case somebody breaks in your house. They don't have to go looking for it. And it went viral in the area because the police are saying, we can't really stop this. So if somebody's going to steal your car, just leave your key fob. And I was like shaking my head going, what is going on right here? My car is unlocked in the parking lot. Maybe should I say that? But all of our cars, you don't see that kind of petty crime. You don't see people breaking into Apple stores and ripping all the phones off and holding people at gunpoint here. You just don't see it. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think people still respect the law here. And in some cases, the mafia here helps control that as well. Because the mafia that's in Mexico, they want tourism to thrive.
Of course.
And anything that hurts tourism hurts their business. So I know, Merida, for instance, is safe because of the mafia. It's not because of the police. Have you been to Merida?
I have.
Have you ever seen a police officer in Merida?
No.
But it's the safest city in America.
Interesting. You're right. I went there. Yeah, you're right.
That is a very good point. Now I think about it.
Well, there's also a port there too, right, in Merida? So there's a lot of...
Well, Progresso, there's a port.
Progresso,
There's
import,
about
export
30 miles
happening.
away.
That explains it.
But yeah, I just think the values here are different. I haven't really been too maybe explicitive about how I describe it, but for years and years and years, when people migrated into Canada and the United States, they assimilated that culture.
Yeah.
So whatever the culture was, they assimilated. So they had the hard work ethic, you had the religious background, and you had a close family kind of connection. Those were values that people brought. As we get more and more immigrants from certain areas into the United States and Canada, and now all Western Europe, then that breaks.
Yeah.
And once that breaks, then the society starts to crumble. For instance, so years ago, I was in Belgium, And I remember at the time when people went on, say, unemployment in the United States, they would milk it for all they, not all, a lot of them would milk unemployment for all they could.
Sure.
In Belgium, they had a very nice social program for that. They pretty much made their same wage when they were laid off.
Oh.
But I said, well, don't people take advantage of that? And they're like, never, because they would be too ashamed to not try to find a job that was
Complete opposite.
Wow, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's all mindset.
So I think you have that same
culture.
mindset in Mexico as well.
Yeah. And I feel too, when people come here, they actually try to conform to Mexico and not be like, I'm American or I'm Canadian and I'm going to do what I want to do. It's like they try to learn the customs and they.
Most of them.
But I was gonna say most.
There's always that one, right? But it's like, you're right. I 100%.
If you want to come in and live here, you cannot bring your thought process of living in Canada and the U.S. You have to come here to
and
conform and be part of the culture, or else, like, again, some of your content is basically put on that. Don't come down here and be a dick.
Yeah.
Come down here and learn and try to get involved and immersed in the culture and the customs.
What do you think of Mexico? Let's talk about the entire country for the next 5 to 10 years. Is it heading the right direction or the wrong direction?
It's definitely, all the indicators right now are heading in the right direction.
Good.
However, there are concerns. I have some concerns that the new government may take it off course a little bit. I don't think they're going to take it off too bad like Lula in Brazil.
You're right.
But I think they're going to, there's a potential now for the new president to take it off of the path of the most growth.
Right.
But 5 to 10 years out, so right now, you see all the building going up in Tulum. You see all the construction in Playa. I don't know if you've been to Cancun, but Cancun's got a ton of construction.
Massive, yeah.
Mérida is one of the fastest growing cities in Mexico right now. Guadalajara is growing. Mexico City is actually knocking down buildings and putting up more high rises. Querétaro is growing. I mean, Sayulito is growing. I mean, every piece of Mexico is growing. So the question is, if Mexico has 130 million people today, how many are they going to have in 5 years? How many in 10 years?
Sure.
And so I think, the conservative estimate, I think, would be probably 140 million in 5 years and maybe 150 to 170 million in 10 years. So I think more and more people are going to come down here once they realize what it's like to live.
Yeah, I agree. Once they come and see it for themselves, like, this is amazing. I know a bunch of people from the US and Canada that moved to Mexico City, for example. Not everyone wants the jungles of Tulum or the beaches of Playa. They want a dynamic, cosmopolitan city, so they'll go to like Mexico City.
Yeah.
And they love it there.
Yeah.
They're just like, this is if I can work remote here, why would I not work remote here versus in the freezing cold of Cleveland, Ohio? Like, what am I doing? So
yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. And I think as people get more educated with content just like this, and they realize, oh, this isn't that scary, or I knew Matt, or geez, I can resonate with Matt or Sean's story or Lev's story, I can do this.
Yeah.
They figure out the stuff back home and then they come down here. But obviously, come down here and stay 6 months, stay 3 months. Make sure that you actually want to be here, because there's beautiful places all over Mexico, right?
All right, so I have another question for you.
Sure.
Did you feel like something was calling you here?
Yeah. I'll give my story real quick. I moved here. I was in desperation mode in Canada. I was like, I need to get out of here. I was 26 years old at the time. Found an ad on Craigslist, came down and lived here. Like within my first week, I'm like, I'm never leaving. And then all my buddies back home, right before I left, we had a big party going away. Hey, Parlor, Sean, Chris. And they're like, you won't last 3 months.
Yeah.
You'll be back within 3 months. I've been 11 years.
Yeah.
Can't leave. Love it. There's nothing that I don't like about here. I like the people. I like the culture. I like the growth. I like my kids growing here. My kids speak 2 languages now. So yeah, calling for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, my working very hard back in Canada over the last 10 years, my idea of kind of relaxation and making it, if you will, was to be on the beach somewhere in a tropical climate and working when I want to and working because I want to, not because I have to. And we were fortunate enough to kind of do that and then come down here. But I heard a saying that, and specifically to Playa del Carmen, that you either absolutely love it
Or you hate it.
Same with
Tulum. I guess everywhere.
People don't like the crazy busyness, or they just fall in love with it. And my wife and daughter and I, we just fell in love with it. And we knew as soon as we made the decision to stay in a further month, the first year we were down here, that we were going to put together a plan to come down here, because we could not, after 90 days of being down here, getting into a routine, and
Right.
going grocery shopping, getting Zuri into school, and just kind of living rather than vacationing. We're
Right.
like, I don't want to go back.
Right. Right.
How about you?
Why would I go back to the gray skies and the cold and the weather and the taxes and everything else? And the healthcare system is very troubling right now. The school system's troubling. And so it was a no-brainer as soon as we were down here. But it wasn't we were down here for a week and we're like, oh, I'd love to live here one day.
Right.
We were down here for a specific amount of time, or 60, 90 days. And we were like, okay, we can make this work.
Yeah.
And we looked back.
Yeah, there's something like it's almost like it's like if I try to go, even when I leave,
I know.
it's like something that keeps like you got to go
It's like a
back. You need to
magnet,
go
right?
back.
I
Yeah.
know.
And so there's like I haven't been able to listen to the universe for my whole life, but here lately, like I also say for whatever here's where you find your peace, right? And so now that I found my peace, I kind of hear what the universe is trying to say. So it's like, from a business standpoint, it's like, you should go do this and you should go do this. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to listen to that. But every time I leave, it keeps telling me you need to go back.
Oh, it's the Mexico dream. It's a land of opportunity now, and I really believe that. Like there's so much opportunity here in every aspect, whether it's medical, real estate, entrepreneurship, finance. There's a ton of opportunity.
I'm a big believer in manifestation and really putting it out and vibrations and stuff. And I don't have the house anymore, but in my previous house in Canada, down in my basement, I had my treadmill workout area, and I had my vision board.
Yeah.
And on there was a ridiculous villa. Now, I just put it up there to represent Mexico, and it had the beach, and it had, family, and it had a bunch of stuff, obviously. And, things happen in a weird way. We just bought some land in Tulum. We're building a 12-bedroom villa currently. Now, I have a new vision board for here because I'm here now, but I'm not going to even look at it because I can't remember it, which is bad. I should remember it. But I knew there was a big villa in Tulum with a bunch of other stuff. And once we build our villa, I'm going to pull it out. And if it matches, I don't know what I'm going to do.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. So, Mexico's exciting. Mexico is different, and there's a huge opportunity now with even just the internet, the connectivity of people. And so if somebody's looking to move down here, where would you tell them to start?
Well, like we just start with Quintana Roo, right? Quintana Roo 2 years ago had a population of 2.5 million. So the and Quintana Roo is doubling every 5 years. So, Tulum is more than doubling right now every 5 years. Like I would be surprised if Tulum's under 200,000 right now.
In people?
Yeah.
It is. Last time I checked, it was 35,000 people.
No, I said I'd be surprised if it's under.
Under 200,000 in the
Well, I'd be
future.
surprised if it's not under 200,000.
Oh,
no, I'd be
100%.
surprised if it's under 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it right.
Well, I saw an article where they said in that article that the growth over the next 5 years is going to reach 700,000 people.
Yeah, I think Tulum will eventually be bigger than Cancun.
My man.
Oh, you
I
did
said
say
that.
that. You said that. You called, and I was like, really? It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
based on I've seen kind of the high level plan, and based on all the developments and stuff and everything that's going on there.
Takes time, but I
And,
agree.
and so I would encourage people, if they were wanting to buy something in Tulum, do it early and try to get even a lot on the ocean side of the Carretera. So, because that land is very defined. It's defined in the north, the south, the east,
It's super
and
finite.
the west, right? It's
Super
just a
finite.
certain area.
Yeah.
It's a finite amount. Yeah.
And then beyond that, I don't see really a stop to the jungle growth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jungle out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jungle, a lot of room for.
I mean, from here to Merida, it's all green. I mean, you've driven to
Right.
Merida, right? That's literally just
Just jungle.
just jungle for miles and miles and miles. But no, I agree with you 100%. We'll kind of end the podcast on the real estate aspect of things. And we both invested
Let me
into
answer the question.
Sure, go ahead.
So, what do I invest? Or so there's a lot of opportunity, you guys said, and then what do people? What advice would I have them? So, other than where to buy, maybe a piece of advice, I would say, look, if you know a population is growing from 2.5 million to 10 million, right? You know that.
Yeah.
Then start a business that capitalizes on that, right? So think about what that means. And kind of to your point, everything is growing: medical, retail, real estate, services. I mean, everything is growing. So I would highly encourage people to look at that and say, okay, what would happen if Detroit, Michigan was all of a sudden great and doubling in population? What kind of opportunities would that build?
I do those comparisons all the time. I'm like, imagine if this was happening in even Playa del Carmen. People would be flocking down here. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice for somebody who can't maybe work remote or has a job that would require them in Canada.
Yeah.
You got to put on the entrepreneur kind of cap, right?
Would you move to Detroit, Michigan if this was happening?
No, and the other thing, from what I've seen, somewhat like personal trainers in Mexico, they make almost as much as the guys in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about a much, much less cost of living,
Yeah.
lower cost of living here.
And a general population of people who, are going to be by the beach. They want to eat healthy, drink healthy, and live a healthier lifestyle. It's a great opportunity.
I was just doing the numbers for my personal trainer. I'm like,
Yeah,
you're making more than I did in my corporate job in Canada back in the day.
But videographers don't make bad money in Mexico.
Yep.
When you compare, you compare that to what they make in the United States, they might make 50% more than that in the United States, but they're paying,
It's all taxed.
Yeah, it's all taxed to death.
Yeah, no doubt. The
And-
tax thing's a big thing. Right?
Yeah.
It's a big thing. Yeah, that's super exciting. Well, here I have a proposal for you because, one, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate your time. And two, I think we got to do with Pavel. Shout out to our videographer, Pavel. Maybe we'll go show you the Tulum beach. We'll take you out there, show you some content, take you out for lunch, and we'll kind of film the whole experience. And you could kind of take a look at it, so then you could share your experience.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys want to do that. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, if you need me back on the show sometime.
Oh, definitely. We're going to have recurring guests. Next time we're going to charge you, though, but I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we answered a lot of questions. I was really trying to get you on here because you have a genuine perspective. You're not just like, it's all butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah.
There's good, there's bad. You decide for yourself if it's.
Yeah, I try to paint the picture as I see it.
Yes.
And not everybody's going to see it as the same. But what's interesting, I have not found many people that have lived in Mexico that see it different. I find a lot of people that visit or have never been here see it different. But I haven't found a lot of people that have lived here see it much differently than the picture I paint. And I said, everybody's going to have a different picture. But, I'm not afraid now to, I can drive. If somebody was downtown Cancun at 3 a.m. and I needed to pick them up, I'd be wouldn't hesitate.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I know.
it's perfectly safe.
But a few years ago, we've been like, here's a taxi cab, hey, let me get some private transport. But it's what you know and what you experience and what you're able to share with others, right?
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And I normally would say that, and that we've lived it.
Right.
In a short few years, been like, wow, from where we started to where we are now,
Yeah.
what a difference. And I'm more excited now than ever for the future of living down here and building business down here.
Yeah, Mexico has a really bright future right now. I mean, the amount of manufacturing they already have, the amount of pipeline that they have built in is incredible.
100%.
The infrastructure that they're putting in, not only with the Tulum airport, but the Mayan train, they're building a superhighway on the other coast. They're building a train coming in.
Malls everywhere.
Malls everywhere. Yeah, that's the other thing is you see people in malls here. I don't know about Canada, but in the United States, no one goes to malls anymore.
No, yeah, they're empty.
They're empty.
Yeah.
I mean, literally empty. Cities are like, what do we do with this mall now?
Yeah. High rise, or we don't know what to do with it.
All the companies have pulled out, and you have lots of just abandoned malls. And
Yeah, great.
And in the United States, it's like we may as well turn them into drug rehab centers because that
Space is there.
I don't know if Canada's the same, but the United States has a drug epidemic where
No, our malls are still pretty busy, I think.
Well, I know we have, where I am, anyways, we have 3 big malls. Two of them now are slated for development.
yeah.
But yeah, we were here yesterday at the Central Maya here. It was it wasn't very nice. It was kind of raining. We went in there. It was packed with people. That would never have happened.
No.
You will be at home on a couch watching TV, right?
And that observation isn't just here. It's not just Playa. It's not just Cancun. It's not just Tulum. I mean, everywhere in Mexico that I've been, like downtown Merida, man, that place is packed on the weekends with locals shopping.
Yeah.
They're shopping. I mean, maybe they're not, maybe it's the online thing that they don't do as much online, but
Yeah. Well, we have Amazon Prime here and everything else.
but people still buy a lot of stuff online. So yeah, it's interesting.
What, we have Amazon Prime here?
Yeah, we do. And it comes within a day or two. But anyways, I just want to say, well, you know what? We forgot to do something.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to do.
Robert De Niro, if you're watching this podcast, we would love to have you on. Reach out to us and let's talk about Nobu. We always talk to Robert De Niro. One day we'll know.
Hoping some cousin of a cousin of a friend knows.
He's the one
that
he's the one actor I would never even speak with.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you guys would speak.
He's building a nice restaurant in Tulum.
Yeah.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. So the Nobu Group, they're going to have residences, hotel, and restaurant down there. So like you said, lots of big stuff coming.
Yeah, he got involved in political stuff, and I personally don't like it when
Actors,
actors get into politics.
Use their
It's like,
publicity.
actors and sports people. It's like just leave politics to
Politicians.
and don't
Sports to sports.
don't tell us who we think you should vote for.
Yeah.
So awesome, folks. So for everybody watching, please go to your Instagram, YouTube, follow Sean, Caribe Gringo. Sorry, all of his information is in the description below. Sean, it was an absolute pleasure
thank you, guys.
talking to you. We look forward to having you again. And yeah, that is it.
That was a long one.
That was a long.
That was the longest we've done, but lots of good info, valuable info.
And I feel like we will definitely have you back more than once because we have so much to talk about. Lots of
More intricate subjects.
yeah, we can kind of go a deep dive into more subjects. So thanks again, Sean, for your time. And that is it for Living the Dream Mexico podcast. Everything real estate, lifestyle, and Mexico. Until next time.